Dies war die Heimat des großen Gottes. Leid. Mit einer Pistole in meiner linken Hand, einer Granate in meiner rechten und einem Messer zwischen meinen Zähnen sehne ich mich nach dem Jagdfieber. Entweder werde ich um eine weitere unschätzbare Erfahrung bereichert. Oder ich werde tot sein.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Since the fall of 1914, the great powers of Europe have been at a stalemate along the Western Front. Advancements in weaponry have rendered all previous forms of waging war obsolete. The battlefield is now a defender's dream and the attacker's worst nightmare. Now, a single man with a machine gun can cut down dozens of men in a matter of seconds. Men are ordered to assault fortified positions in massive human waves in the hopes to break the deadlock. But a decisive breakthrough has yet to occur. The deadlock has led to the construction of a complex series of trenches that stretch from the English Channel to the Swiss border. Millions of men from around the globe sit in these trenches, battling not only their foe, but the very battlefield itself. One of these men was Ernst Junger. He joined the German army at the outbreak of the war to escape his failing academic career. He has seen the carnage of the trenches for nearly 3 straight years now. His experience on the battlefield has promoted him to not only an officer, but an expert at raiding enemy trenches. Years in the mud and murder on the Western Front have made him hard by the war and almost at home in all of its horrors.
Die Ritterlichkeit gab hier ihr letztes Lebewohl. Sie musste der Intensität des Krieges weichen. Sowie auch jegliche persönlichen und noblen Gefühlen weichen müssen, wenn die Maschinen die Oberhand gewinnen. Das Europa von heute sah man hier zum ersten Mal. Auf dem Schlachtfeld.
Fortifying trenches involved ingenuity and strength. Millions of sandbags to stop bullets, miles of barbed wire to stop advancing infantry, and endless amounts of wood and iron to stop the flow of earth and mud into the trenches. Everything served as a means of survival. Even this simple weather vane was used to determine the direction of the wind in the event of a poison gas attack. Ormond Burton joined the New Zealand Army as a stretcher-bearer at the outbreak of hostilities, driven by his sense of duty to one's country. He first saw combat on the cliffs of Gallipoli against the Ottoman Empire before arriving at the Western Front in 1916. Like Ernst, his experience at war led him to be promoted to an infantry officer.
See those men on those wires?
The dead Jerry, sir.
Yeah. Organize a party, go out after dark, sit and collect those men.
Burton and the New Zealanders now face the front of Hill 63, a position deemed the buttress of the British line.
Have we been able to raise any artillery?
No, sir. The last German bombardment took out our telephone wire. I've sent some runners back, though.
We have to take all precautions, keep them Jerrys off our backs.
That's what Williams and Shaw are for, sir.
Snipers were used to keep the enemy pinned down and hesitant about movement and observation. snipers worked in teams of 2, with one as the shooter and one as the observer. Camouflage was key for survival and effectiveness. The landscape was used and manipulated to their advantage, and the suits they wore were made of improvised materials. Snipers had to react quickly when a target presented itself. A man exposing himself, even for a second, invited death.
Er ist tot. Verschwende nicht deine Bandagen.
Er hat eine Hashtag. Sanitäter!
German leaders did not feel as eager as the Allies to break the trench deadlock. Rather, their command decided to create a more permanent position to wear down the attacking Allies, and only made localized attacks when the line was threatened. It was not uncommon for German bunkers to have amenities, including electricity. Where the German army really suffered, though, was food supply. The British Navy's blockade of the nation had greatly reduced its ability to feed its troops, and rations had become more meager as the war progressed. For the Allied troops, food was in more supply. The goal of the British Army was to give the fighting man 4,500 calories a day, but this was rarely achieved. All men in the trenches suffered with the consequences of living in mud. Lice, rats, and other pests haunted the men. Disease was rampant. Men whose feet were submerged in the mud for days risked loss of limb from infection. Probably one of the biggest hardships of all was the mundane ordeal brought on by the stalemate on the front lines. Boredom often ruled the battlefield.
Moved toward death without seeing it. We were hit without knowing where the shot came from. Long since had the precision shooting of the trained marksman, the direct 5 guns, and with it, the charm of the duel, giving way to the concentrated fire of mechanized weapons. The outcome was a game in numbers. Whoever could cover a certain number of square meters with the greater mass of artillery fire won.
The number one killer of men in the Great War was artillery. The big guns were used to grind down on the enemy's men and morale. It was not uncommon for barrages to go on for days on end, and with both sides in a perpetual artillery duel. These bombardments drove men deep into their holes and sometimes drove them to insanity. The cover of darkness provided many opportunities not afforded during the day. Tasks like repairing wire and delivering supplies were done at night. More daring operations conducted were trench raids to gather intelligence or disrupt enemy activity. Men would travel light and mask any and all sound they could make.
Sir, the bodies are gone. Jerry must have taken them in the night.
Grabenkämpfe sind die blutigsten, wildesten und brutalsten Kämpfe von allen. Von all den aufregenden Momenten des Krieges ist keiner so mächtig wie das Aufeinandertreffen zweier zwischen den engen Grabenwänden. Dort gibt es keine Gnade, kein Zurück. Dort spricht das Blut. Es stößt einen schrillen Aufschrei des Wiedererkennens, als während es aus der Brust gerissen wird, wie ein Albtraum.
Back to the trenches!
The Allies would finally break the lines of the German army in the fall of 1918. Ormond Burton would document the experiences of New Zealand in the Great War in the volume entitled The Auckland Regiment. The horrors he saw would lead him to become a vocal pacifist for the rest of his life. Ernst Junger would be wounded 14 times during the war. He would pen his memoir, Storm of Steel, which would be the first account to provide a truly stark look at life and death on the Western Front. It is through the words of men like Burton and Junger that the carnage of the First World War is forever preserved and the sacrifices of so many remembered.
The real glory of the war was the amazing willingness with which the youth of the world, of whatever country, went to suffering and death for the best they could see.